We're presenting Observe the Sons of Ulster Marching Towards the Somme on what is in fact the 100th anniversary of the First World War. In fact, we're presenting it pretty much close to the very day that war started. But in a sense, in a very true sense, this isn't just a play about something that happened 100 years ago. Although everybody has memories through possibly their fathers, their grandfathers, even their great-grandfathers, people who fought in that war. It's not just about that war. This is a play about soldiers. This is a play about why men go to war, how war changes them, and what they eventually are willing to give their lives for. I think it's fair to say that any soldier, no matter what war they served in, will recognize themselves and their band of brothers within this play. Because the structure of the play takes us through three vital stages in the life of a soldier in war. We have that period of basic training where they discover each other. Very cleverly, the next sequence brings them home again on leave after their first experience of the front, after their first experience of intense bombardment, of being under machine gun fire, of living and watching others dying in the trenches. So between the first experience and the second, they become changed men. Any soldier who has served will know this, will recognize it straight away. And the final sequence in which we see them is the night before the great battle. And again, any veteran, whether they be Army, Air Force, Navy, doesn't matter, whether they're Marines, will have experienced that extreme tension, that extreme fear, and that extreme surge of courage and certainty the night before the battle, the night before they go out and die. Brotherhood, the vitality of brotherhood, the thing that bonds people together. And even in the modern army, where it is not just men, it's women as well, but that sense of belonging to one another, trusting in one another, having faith in one another, being the person upon whom others may depend for their very lives, creates an enormous responsibility, an enormous bonding, and that passion, the passion of that bonding is all over this play. Any such play like this is straight away a play about men and soldiers and men going off to war. But we mustn't forget that for every man who went to war, there are 2, 3, 4 women that they leave behind. Mothers, wives, sisters, daughters. And they're always affected. And we must realize and we must recognize the effect that war has, not just on the soldiers, but on those incredibly brave women that they leave behind, who have to hold families together, who have to hold the children, who have to care for one another because there is no man there to support them. And when you travel back to 1914, that was a very serious obligation. And so many of those men didn't come home. And all across this country, there are women whose men did not come home from Vietnam, from Korea, from the Second World War, from the First World War, and right through to today from Afghanistan and from Iraq. Women understand what men are experiencing as an act of warfare. Not just families, but communities change when war takes the men away. Frank McGuinness, in this particular play, wrote a piece of genius in that what was lost was not just the men, but what the men represented for the land. Those men fought for Ulster, but they fought the Germans. They fought in a place completely alien to them. They fought in Flanders, so many miles away, so far away from their own land. But they believed their blood was in the land that they fought for, as well as in the land they died in. And the genius of the play is that demonstration that it is the land of home that you're fighting no matter where you fight. The land of home is what you fight for. The play features 8 Irish soldiers, and they are of the Protestant tradition. But it's not about the conflict. It's about that nature of tradition that tells a person who they are, what they are, and that is always tied to where they are from. It's a play not just about being an Ulster soldier, but being a Protestant Ulster soldier, being a soldier from Belfast, from Derry, from the townlands that make up Ireland. It's a play about home, because at the end of the day, scratch a soldier and you'll find that what he's fighting for is home. Sometimes you look at this, at a play like this, and think it is a universal assessment of a particular religious or social conflict. The play isn't that, because it's not possible. Even though hundreds of books have been written on the topic, I think it was it Tip O'Neill, ex-Speaker of the House in Congress, who said, all politics are local politics. This is about a group of men and their own personal expression, their own attitudes to their neighbors, who they hate, and yet who they are willing to go and die for because they are of that same piece of land. The First World War was a war from the British side that was fought for king and country. And yet the king and country they're referred to as the King of England, and the country was Great Britain. Most of these young men from Ulster did not die for Great Britain, and most of them didn't die for king. They died for home. They died for Ulster. Let's not for a minute imagine that this play is all serious. It certainly isn't. It wouldn't be true to life if it were. Throughout the play, these men grow to admire, respect, and care for each other. And the way they do it is the way men usually do. They joke. One of the reasons I love this play is because it's not taking a position about war, it's taking a position about soldiers, which means it's taking a position about men. 1914, all the soldiers were men. This play really does express how a group of completely different people from completely different areas in a country come together, not particularly liking one another, and turn into a band of brothers, turn into a group of men who will support one another, care for one another, and die for one another. It's a play about the union, the bond that exists when men come together under the threat of war. It's a play about dependence, the way you depend upon the man next to you to cover your back, to pick you up when you're wounded, to protect you, and possibly to take the bullet for you. That's an incredible bond between men, and only war brings that out. The amount of wit that occurs in this play is extraordinary, and it's Irish wit. It's sharp, it's cruel sometimes, but for that, it's very, very funny. The title of the play is not merely an instruction to the audience. The title of the play is in fact a prayer, and it's a prayer that occurs right at the very end of the play. Before they go out, before they march out on that final morning, on the first day of the Battle of the Somme, they say in that prayer to God, observe the Sons of Ulster marching towards the Somme. Not the Sons of the Somme, that's just where they're going to die, but they are the Sons of Ulster, just as they are the sons of any state in the Union, any town. They belong to the land they are from, and it is for that land that they are willing to die. We talk a lot about brotherhood, band of brothers, the notion that soldiers work together to become that essential team of brothers. But it's not just that, because every soldier in every army forms that team. And every soldier in every army senses the brotherhood of soldiers. And I suppose in the First World War, that's what would have caused on one Christmas day the soldiers from both sides to sing hymns, to exchange cigarettes, and to play soccer together between the trenches. In one sense, the relationships between these 8 men, who form into 4 groups of 2 for the middle act of the play, find a true definition of love of one another. Through brotherhood, through trust. There is one magnificent scene where one man who has lost his nerve, today we would say he was suffering from post-traumatic stress, but of course you didn't have that during the First World War. You were either a hero or a coward. A hero if you fall, a coward if you leave. And one of the soldiers, who is his friend, forces him to face his fear, knowing that if he doesn't face his fear and doesn't go back to the front, he will be shot. And it is an act of extreme love and extreme brotherhood that makes one soldier cruelly force another one to face his fears and go back to fight. And he does it because, well, for 2 basic reasons. He doesn't want his friend to desert and be shot, but he also wants to know that his friend will be, when they go back, a man he can depend on for his life. And the only way to do that is to make the man conquer his own fears. It's a magnificent piece of writing. I suppose in a way the world divides into 2 groups of people, those who have faced war and those who haven't. And if you have faced war, this play celebrates what you did, what you went through, what you suffered. And if you've never faced war, this play demonstrates to you the true level of camaraderie, of trust, of love, of brotherhood that being a soldier is. This is a play about trust between men. This is a play about the things you are willing to sacrifice the most precious thing you have for, your life. Life is all we have. And in almost any Western ethos, that one Christian belief rings true. No greater love hath a man than this, that he will lay down his life for his friend. And that's what soldiers do.